The views and opinions expressed on Smack My Pitch Up are those of the panelists and not that of the GUI Media Network or associated brands and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is rated R for violence, language, and nudity, because clothing is a prison and society will not cage me.
In a world with too many reboots and remakes,
two men will stop at nothing to make it even worse. This is Smack My Pitch Up.
Hello, geeks, and welcome to another episode of Smack My Pitch Up, the podcast that reboots, remakes, reimagines, sequels, cycles, and adapts some of your favorite and least favorite properties from film, television, and what have you. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Thandi.
We're off, kids. We're off of work, so we're off to see the wizard.
We're off to... Yellow Brick Road means something else if you go into a certain clubs at night.
I've had a friend that has tried to get me to watch that movie for years, for like a decade, Yellow Brick Road.
Oh, yeah.
Not going to do it. I consumed so much Oz-related media, but not that movie, not yet.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Evidently, it's up there with a Serbian story for shock value.
Oh, Serbian film, yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
Serbian film is like top of the list, pretty much, of most disturbing imagery that you can see in a film. And yeah, did not choose that director for Wizard of Oz. That would have been that would have made for a very interesting adaptation for sure. But for those unfamiliar,
we'll get him in there somewhere one day.
One day, yeah. For those unfamiliar with Smack and Pitch Up, we take a turns fan casting different properties. So for this one, we're doing Wizard of Oz, the classic film and book that we are taking a crack at. We're going to both have a chance to do one that we think might actually be a working way of adapting it or remaking it, and then just throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks. Seeing
what sticks.
Yeah, seeing what weird remake we can come up with for this property as well. So it's
and then of course afterwards cleaning off the wall with some Lysol, maybe a little rubbing alcohol.
Yep. And then talking into a fan, which is the part where we do our trailers. So good times will be had by all. Much like this film, Wizard of Oz was a cinematic experience back when it came out. It was right around the era where black and white and color was shifting. Like it was shifting into the color world of the filmmaking. And Wizard of Oz paid kind of an homage to that in the film, which was really cool. Very cool choice.
Oh, it took full advantage of it. It is such, oftentimes older movies don't hold up to your modern sensibilities, but the Wizard of Oz is still such a lush experience. It's beautiful. It's still dazzling in its own way. Like the practical effects really dazzle still for me. The Technicolor really dazzles still for me.
Everything is such high contrast, bright, like full colors that it pops. It makes it the scenes in Oz so surreal that there is a timelessness to it. You don't care that the trees are paper mache. You don't care that the flying monkeys are definitely on ropes, and you don't care. Like it's fine. It all somehow works because it's so surreal in the first place.
Oh, it's awesome. And actually, so the Wizard of Oz is right before they started using blue screen and green screen. Actually, going down that rabbit hole, I watched the first movie that they used blue screen in because the Wizard of Oz inspired a couple other movies. But there's like a scene in the Wizard of Oz where there's a toy, the witch flying out of her castle. And you can tell that it's not the witch, but it looks great. Almost everything in the movie is a well-considered practical effect, and it looks great. The people suffered to have those practical effects, like people got sick and poisoned because of heavy makeup and asbestos and all kinds of things. But seeing it on screen, you're like, it's almost kind of worth it because it's a cultural benchmark of cinema.
Definitely. I mean, this is really showing off, like so many other films in this stock, showing off the new bells and whistles that were available at the time. That's like the Star Wars of it all, or the Jurassic Parks of it all, where there's these technological leaps that these movies are making, that even years later, you see all these knockoff movies years after the first movie that don't look as good as the movie from, like, Jurassic Park is from 1993. And those effects still mostly hold up really well, which is insane.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't count because it's Steven Spielberg.
Yep. You look at movies that came out in like 2012 and the special effects are like garbage compared to the 1993 Jurassic Park. But then you also look at like Virtuosity.
Well, it's because they don't have to try as hard.
Yeah, true.
They don't have to try as hard,
Yeah.
so they don't. They don't try. It's not as well considered because they don't feel like they have to have it because it's easier to do it.
Yep. Whereas, yeah, Jurassic Park, they were trying to prove something. They were trying to make their mark. So
Yeah.
Yep. And yep,
We can do this. Remember, originally Jurassic Park was going to be stop motion, and they invented new technology to make that not be stop motion. And I feel like that's some of the feeling that you get from watching The Wizard of Oz.
definitely. Yeah, that you're seeing just a movie that is so far ahead of its time when it came out. And so what was interesting is thinking about how we go about adapting this is that, what was the original trying to say, and what of that do we want to keep, or what do we want to kind of protect with any kind of reboot or remake? It is that it's more than just a technological experience. It's also, as so many other movies after it, it's this exploration as to the kind of archetypes of people that we have in our life and what they mean to us. There's these characters that are in her real life in the black and white world, and then they become other characters that are representative of how they are in her life, in her real life. And that's been used in a ton of things ever since. But
yeah, no, it was definitely the prototype for that thing, and it's kind of brilliant because that's not from the book. That is a device that was invented for the movie. The whole having Oz be kind of a dream, or like the product of head injury, is a product of the movie, and it makes it interesting. It changes the stakes a little bit.
Sure. And it does, to a degree, leave a kind of spinning top at the end of Inception, like open-ended way of feeling about it, whether or not Oz exists, or if it is just this dream, this fantasy world that Dorothy dreamt up. They don't really answer that question. They just let it hang out there. And I don't think a lot of movies at that time approached films that way. That's pretty common now, to leave the open end to a movie, but not so much back then.
Yeah, one of the movies that I watched because of The Wizard of Oz, because there were two big movies that were influenced by the success of The Wizard of Oz. Movies made for children, but for all ages, with kind of a budget and kind of effects driven. One was The Thief of Baghdad, which was incredible. The Thief of Baghdad's awesome. If you haven't seen it or haven't seen it recently, definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. The other was Shirley Temple's Bluebird, which is not that great, but the Bluebird uses that same framing device where a child goes to sleep and has this fantastic dream and wakes up a changed person from the experience of having had that experience in their dreams. So it is a really effective tool. Like, they saw that it worked in Oz and they tried to use it for themselves. Was it effective in the Bluebird? I don't know. I didn't really care for the movie, but yes, it is a very effective tool.
Yeah, I have not seen Bluebird. Thief of Baghdad, it was one of those movies that it was like on the list of important movies that I had to watch, like as a teenager. Just, you go down the laundry list of like all the Brando flicks, all the, you just have your mental checklist of things that are just so important that you have to have that in your mental Rolodex. But I don't think I've seen it since. So I think I might have to revisit that one.
It's on Tubi. So is the Bluebird. They're both on Tubi. Check them out.
Nice.
Interesting benchmarks of cinema.
I was looking at a lot of the more, kind of 80s on era of filmmaking that definitely used The Wizard of Oz as a touchstone for the way that they're going about it. There's the Bridge to Terabithia's and of it all,
Uh-huh.
which of course, they're kind of looking at a fantasy realm, even to a degree. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the story itself does have a lot of the same elements as
Uh-huh.
and I do recognize that is of an older era as well, those books, but there's something so, I mean, even Harry Potter has this, you belong to this fantasy realm and this real realm kind of divide. That's a little more thin than Wizard of Oz, but it's become such just a trope that movies use it all the time. This like fantasy realm that you belong to kind of vibe. But
easy tools from the Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Thank you, Frank Elbaum.
The thing was figuring out for tone and for director for me was how to incorporate those fantasy elements, but and modernize it without it being like a modern take on Wizard of Oz. There's a timelessness to the original that I think needs to be protected. And even if you have it take place in modern times, you don't have to make it like have that modern film feel. I wanted to still approach it with this kind of like timeless fantasy, could take place in any decade kind of feel that the original one has. And so that's one thing that I made sure to think about when doing my director and theme for this role. Are you keeping things like as a timepiece, or are you modernizing it, or what are you doing with yours?
So the influence, the inspiration for my commercial take is actually the book itself, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay.
From 1902.
Oof.
So the kind of setting is a turn of the century setting. That's the time place. So the timelessness is just that period of time that the original book was taking place. That's the biggest aesthetic inspiration.
I was looking at around the era that it feels that this story is taking place in the movie, which is, it feels very Dust Bowl, Great Depression era kind of vibe to it. And I considered keeping it kind of as a period piece, but then I started thinking about like the challenges that we are starting to deal with now and will be dealing with for undecided period of time, as far as like problems with the weather and the economy, and the fact that a pack of chicken costs $25 now. That there's a lot of modern day conversations.
Woe is us.
Yeah, right. But there's a lot of modern day conversations that we can, if you want to talk timeless, that does mirror some of the challenges that people were running into in the Depression era. We're not there yet, but I mean, if you just kind of speed up the clock by a few years, you can have that conversation.
Oh yeah, 100% true. 100% true. That Dust Bowl era influence that you take from the visuals of the black and white portion of the movie. Yeah, that's kind of a give me. I never even thought about that, but yes, that works really well.
Yeah. So this is, I guess, technically set in like a slightly dystopian future, but the future is like, I mean, I'm talking like 5 years. It's not like the distant future. This is one of those movies where it's like
just the future.
Yeah. Just the real, like, not that far from now future. And those movies always freak me out because it's like, it's so close to real that you're like, oh no, this is how it's going to happen. So yeah, this is taking place in like 2028 or something. My movie. And yeah, so your turn of the century.
Yeah, mine's, like I said, like 1902, turn of the century-ish.
For mine, as I was saying, it does take place in just a few years from now. And the basic tone of the world is that it's not like apocalyptic, but it is challenging. The weather patterns have changed a lot, which is causing crops to die. There's food shortages. There's shipping issues, just like the shipping issues we're dealing with today. Crops that they are having, like, are dying before they're going bad before they get to where they're supposed to be going because of all the challenges with shipping, like the same stuff we're dealing with now. So there's it's just all these problems are compiling upon each other and creating more challenges. Unemployment's going up like significantly. It's just a tire fire. There's a more exaggerated version of the tire fire we're currently in. And so here we are in the American Midwest. This is a smaller farm that Dorothy and her family are on or own. And they're finding themselves behind on their mortgage and the bank threatening to take their home. And they're having trouble, like all the other farms are having, of getting enough product to make enough to be able to keep the farm. And so that's where they stand. Now, the difference with the character relationships is that Gilda, the character of Gilda, that is going to be both the good witch in the fantasy realm, but is also going to be Glenda. Yeah. That's going to be her mom. And her father had passed years before. And then the Tin Man is another farmer that has a nearby farm to her family that also lost his wife years before. And he helps out her family regularly. And he's just this like sullen, quiet dude that helps out the family. They're kind of work together because they're both struggling farms. There's this kind of like unspoken connection between Dorothy's mom and Hickory, or the Tin Man, who's the neighbor. But he's broken they're both kind of broken, but Glenda is healing a little bit better, and is missing companionship, whereas Hickory the Tin Man is kind of turned off to that. And in addition, there's Miss Gulch, or the Wicked Witch, that works for the bank and has her sights set on Hickory, on the Tin Man, just romantically, and notices the connection that Hickory and Glenda have, and is jealous of that. So that's why she's so hell-bent on getting the farm, is because she sees the mother as competition. So there's like a kind of a love circle thing happening there, but it's subtle. It's unspoken for the most part. It exposes itself a little bit more in Oz. That's where that conversation can have a little bit more room to breathe. The other characters of Oz and the farm are kind of the same. They're either hands that work on the farm or family members, like Scarecrow. I decided it was going to be Dorothy's older brother, who's a dumbass and just doesn't do his chores the way he's supposed to. He doesn't contribute like he's supposed to, but he's a nice guy. He's just a big dummy. And then Zeke, the Cowardly Lion, that's just somebody that's been working with them. He's worked the farm with them for decades. This is definitely going to have a quieter fantasy vibe to it, that the environment is going to do a lot of the acting for these characters. And so you're setting up this very sepia toned, muted color feel to Kansas in the Kansas part of the story. So it's not black and white, but it's very, very bleached out, or like with a little brown tones.
Desaturated.
Yeah, desaturated as hell. It looks wet and muddy in every frame. It's got kind of like The Road vibe to it.
Oh, that makes me sad.
Yeah. It's not that far off from Kansas now. But then as the twister happens and you get caught up in the twister and you end up in Oz has this very more modern take film style of fantasy where everything feels kind of enlarged by 3%. Everything seems just ever so slightly bigger than it does in the real world. And everything has this kind of like almost smoky quality to the shooting style. And Dorothy's surprised by it. And, the normal story of The Wizard of Oz starts to take place from there. But as she meets these characters, there's a little bit more of the relationship she had with these characters in Kansas that is showing through than the original did. That Scarecrow is her brother, and Zeke is basically kind of like would be an uncle type character to her. And then you've got the Tin Man, which is Lee Pace, where Dorothy wants her mom to be happy and sees this Tin Man as a person that is, strong in character and somebody that she can depend on and somebody that she really kind of needs in her life, but it has a broken heart. And so through their adventures together, she's trying to like heal the Tin Man through just having the comfort of like friendship and community with all these characters. So that's what heals the Tin Man's heart towards the end. But
So is a large part of the focus on their relationship versus like the entire gang, or?
To a degree, it's honestly the basic direction that I'm trying to go in with this is that Dorothy has her eyes set on moving away from the farm at the beginning of this. She's, early to mid teenager, like probably like 13 or 14. And she hates her life on the farm. The farm is like struggling really hard. So like her mom isn't around a whole lot. Even like her quote unquote uncle, like the Zeke, is not available a lot of the time because they're doing the best they can to get whatever crops they can save to make ends meet. And so she is lonely and she hates that life and she wants to escape. And also like her brother and her just fighting all the time. So there's no connectivity that she's craving on the farm. And so this journey is more about her finding that commonality that she has with her brother and recognizing that he's not necessarily a dumbass. He's a teenager. He's like he's like late teens, like 17, 18 years old. So he's at that age where he's focused on what he's going to do with his life. And he's just riddled with hormones and he's distracted. So it's not that he's a dumbass. He's as much of a dumbass as anybody that's 17 or 18 is. And so her getting a better understanding that this is, that her brother loves her and she loves him and they do have things in common and, those family things that you just can't get away from that are just built into your DNA. And it's her finding that relationship again with her brother. And then at the same time, trying to show, healing her own relationships, show the Tin Man that there is strength in finding connection with people, that you don't have to like separate yourself away from everybody.
Nice.
The Cowardly Lion, Zeke, that's more of just like the person that has their own challenges within themselves. They're super friendly and love community, and that's not a problem that they're dealing with, but it's that personal like confidence that they're lacking, that they don't believe in themselves. And so they've always just been kind of like, Zeke is great at the biology of farming, all the science that goes behind it. He's insanely smart, but has never pursued that like in a real like non-field hand kind of approach to things, even though with the family even being supportive of it, it was like, no, like I'm happy here. And so it's like him finding the confidence in himself to like believe in himself is his journey. But at the same time, he's there for everybody else as they have their journey about finding family, basically. And so the breakdown of the characters that I wanted it to be representative of like, of who would be possibly cast by the director, but also I wanted it to be able to have that conversation also about like the impoverished classes of people in the United States. That conversation that actually like as you go into the like lower income classes of people, there is more diversity on who you hang out with. It's when you get into the upper tiers of financial success that you see that there's significantly less diversity. So it's not a hammering in there kind of statement by who I cast, but it's just this kind of little background statement about, the poors stick together, basically. And so for the casting list, I went with Dorothy. I went with Daphne Keene Fernandez, and you may know her as her role in Logan. She was was it X-23, and His Dark Materials. She's
a little bit older now. Has she been in other stuff?
Yeah, she's actually in the current series His Dark Materials, which is based on the Golden Compass books. That has Lin-Manuel Miranda's in it as well. So she's done fantasy before as well. That was part of my consideration for her as as Dorothy, is that she definitely has a very different tone of character between Logan and His Dark Materials. And she's also in a series called The Refugees, which I'm not familiar with, but just from what I've read, it looks like it's being received very well. So she's a great actress. She has emotive abilities beyond her years that I've seen with the roles that she's been in. So I think she'd do a very good job of kind of being the soul of this story for somebody so young. Then we've got the Wizard or Professor Marvel as it is in the casting. And you want somebody that's vaguely European or at least transatlantic, that has this ridiculous level of like poshness to them without it being cartoonish. And I think it was kind of, especially since the director had worked with him before, Ben Kingsley is, I think, a fun choice for the wizard. I think he does a thing with his eyes where his eyes get big without looking cartoonish that I think would be very fun. Just for a shot of him doing that to Dorothy, who then like kind of grins like she's not intimidated by him at all, whereas other people are.
Yeah, I can envision his wizard directly too.
Right? Yeah, like I can see it in my mind already. And then we've got for the Scarecrow, that's her older brother, Zola Maraduena. He's in Cobra Kai as Miguel. He plays Miguel in Cobra Kai. I think he also just got cast as, I believe it's Blue Beetle that he's going to be playing in
TV or movies.
I'm not entirely sure. I just remember reading like a headline or something about it, but I think has a future. That show is not exactly the most well acted show in the world, so I would like to see him in roles where you can actually compare him to.
Can stretch.
He has room to not be this like cartoonish character. So I'm going to put him in this fantasy movie, where he doesn't have to act as cartoony. I don't know, but I think he would be fun as just the well-meaning, loving, but kind of aloof, and not paying attention, like older brother. I think he would do a really good job with that. And then, this was, I thought, an interesting choice for the Cowardly Lion. I decided I was going to go with Tyler Perry because though I'm not a big fan, I'm not a fan of the Medea movies. I'm just not my thing, but I have seen him play like even more current movies. He'll play these little small roles sometimes. Like he was in the Star Trek remake randomly. He was in there for like 3 minutes. It wasn't a big role.
He's been a random authority figure in a lot of stuff. He's like the head detective, all kinds of stuff of that nature.
There is a warmth that he has to him that I did want to follow up, but also I could see him having that internal struggle of, and he's also a gigantic man. He's massive. So I thought it'd be interesting to cast a larger person, like tall, big person, to play this person that has this self-doubt and is like kind of nervous all the time. Would be an interesting contrast there. Then the Tin Man. This is somebody that has worked with the director a couple times and a fantastic actor. And I think playing the like haunted, quiet hero kind of role, I think Lee Pace would knock it out of the park. And he's also done like a kind of cowboy accent in one of the movies he was in with this director. And so he could do like an American accent. I don't think he needs to go as hardcore as cowboy for this, but he doesn't have to have a British accent necessarily.
Doesn't need Benedict Cumberbatch power the dog accent.
Not quite that level.
Which actually, different themes, but I'm getting similar vibes from your take with that and power. I mean,
of the tonally, dog. As far as like the idea of like small farm energy, it's not that far off, honestly. Then we've got Glinda, which is also her mother in this, and gotta cast Selma. Love her to death. She's so warm. She's so kind and lovely and incredible, great comedic timing, great like just of course over the moon. Love her to death. Would knock it to the.
Yeah, she's sparkling, and she is a literal angel. She is she's a magical woman.
So I think it was a kind of a no-brainer choice for me there. And then for the Wicked Witch and Ms. Gulch, this is just a personal choice because I needed to see it, and I think it would work great, but it's also a little nail on head, especially since they recently were given tons of accolades for playing a cackling witch. Catherine Hahn, I had to do it for the Wicked Witch. Her cackle from WandaVision is as Agatha is incredible. Is absolutely wonderful. I adore it. And I think she would have so much fun in that role while still being able to give it nuance. And so this film isn't really a funny version. There's going to be funny moments like here and there, but it's definitely more of like a drama vibe to it. And I wanted a director that played in the fantasy world before. This is actually a director that directed a couple episodes of a modern play on Wizard of Oz called Emerald City that came out. But he was not the creator. So as far as the the look and feel of the show was not his to play with. But he's also responsible for a number of fantasy films, including The Cell, The Fall, which, if you are not familiar with The Fall, that's a criminally underrated fantasy film. Mirror, Mirror, and Selfless. Tarsem Singh is the director.
Yeah, the dude's got a crazy style. I've seen The Cell. I don't think I've seen The Fall.
I don't know why it didn't really hit. I think it came out at the same time as some like really big tentpole blockbuster films, but it's from like early to mid 2000, like maybe 2005, 2007 is when it came out. And Lee Pace is this stuntman, like cowboy stuntman, that he hurt his leg, and he's also like recently heartbroken, and like his girl left him, and he starts weaving this crazy fantasy story that he's the hero of to this little like immigrant girl who is there because she fell off of a ladder picking oranges. This is in like Southern California in the like 1920s, and so she's there recovering, and he's telling her these stories in exchange for her to going and getting him drugs. Yeah, criminally underrated. I love it.
Does it have like Big Fish vibes?
Not quite as whimsical as Big Fish. It's definitely got that like artistic drama vibe to it. You know, there's really interesting camera choices. And there's definitely some of that ridiculous nature in the story kind of moments, but overall it's just way more of a drama approach to it. And
nice.
Yeah, so I think Tarsem, to have that tapestry of Wizard of Oz to kind of play with in that same way would be super interesting at best, you know, or at least. And yeah.
Agreed.
Set against the backdrop of like a crumbling of capitalist America, I think would be an interesting movie. So that's my take.
Oz is mildly horrific.
Exactly.
Oz looks a little bit like Dark Souls.
Right. So, that's my tragic Wizard of Oz remake. Reimagining, I guess. What are you looking at? You're doing turn of the century, right?
So my setting is turn of the century, yes. As the wonderful Wizard of Oz was, and my influence is actually the Wizard of Oz movie, kind of, but really the thing that inspired me was I just watched The Wiz recently, and preparing for this, and just practical effects, just having stuff on the camera, but also having your production look like an opulent stage play. So not having it be an opulent stage play necessarily, but like having like amazingly drawn like backgrounds and having huge numbers of actual people on stage. I want it to be super theatrical and crazy lush, and also influenced by the turn of the century style. There was an architectural design called the Beaux Arts style that dominated that era, where everything is huge and like neoclassic, and there's statues everywhere and like ornate shit just as far as the eye can see. I want the movie to feel like an expensive hotel. I want Oz to feel like an expensive hotel. I want the costumes inside of Oz to be opulent and ornate. I want this thing to be beautiful. And because of that, I'm going to start with my director. This is a Baz Luhrmann production. And if you don't know who Baz Luhrmann did The Great Gatsby and Moulin Rouge, Romeo and Juliet.
And is soon going to be, there's trailers out for it, doing an Elvis biopic with Tom Hanks that looks bad. It looks really bad.
I had not heard about that, and I cannot imagine that would be anything but interesting. So maybe it will be bad, but it will definitely be interesting.
I know you can never tell until it's actually out, but yeah, there's some choices just in the trailer that are like, okay, all right, Baz, like.
Oh, so as not a hugiantic Elvis fan, I am all the way here for it. Anything, because he's an interesting character. I'm here for it.
The part that is like, are you fucking kidding me? Is that it? Like 1968, Martin Luther King gets shot, and Elvis is like refusing to go on because he's like, you know, it's up to us to say something about this, and then his like manager being like, it's not our job, and he's like pissed. I'm like, Elvis was racist. Like
as fuck. Yeah.
he was super
Like,
racist.
I'm gonna take these darkies' music and make $1 million.
Right? He's Elvis Presley is not sitting there lamenting like the assassination of Martin Luther King and being like, no, we've got to stand for something, and this is what we stand for. No, no,
Yeah, he's not Johnny Cash. He's Elvis Presley.
yeah,
Not Willie Nelson.
Oh,
He's
man.
Elvis Presley.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's in the trailer, and it's like, oh no. Are you really trying to make Elvis a civil rights figure? That's, whew.
Yeah, it's the traditional style of biopic making to lionize your star. That's the way they made him back in the 50s or whatever. But Baz Luhrmann's style, the biggest influence for his style, as reported by Baz Luhrmann, is Bollywood. Seeing the lush, gigantic, and specifically uncool movies that people are enjoying. They get outside of their own heads and then just enjoy how ridiculous, goofy, and uncool this is. I want the spectacle level, not because the movie's ridiculous or hugely funny, anything like that, because of the spectacle, because of how lush and colorful and the setting it is. I want to focus on that, and I want it to be something that you look at and are not even conscious about it trying to achieve any level of cool. It's just lush, beautiful, and goofy because of how garish it is. So this is fully Baz Luhrmann's Wizard of Oz. Musical numbers just overblown in every way. Like I said, as practical as you can get under the circumstances. I want lots and lots of practical on stage. And so I want something that's like The Great Ziegfeld or Busby Berkeley, like production number, not in the water. Maybe some of it will be, but just 1 million people on stage, lots of sparkling elements, fully Gilded Age.
Nice.
As far as the story, like I'm hewing very closely to what happened in The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. So it'll be kind of like the movie, but with more violence, because those books are ridiculously violent. There is some stuff in the books that is on the verge of macabre or gross.
Nice.
We'll have some of those elements in there. Like, you know, the Tin Man's origin is that the Wicked Witch cursed his axe to chop up his body into little pieces, and then each chop was replaced by a mechanic or tin element. And then later on in one of the other books, his body, and there's another 10 person in the books, their body parts were combined to be the new husband of the woman that the Tin Man loved instead of the Tin Man. So this Frankenstein made from his body and somebody else's body became the new husband of the woman the Tin Man loved, which is why his body was chopped into pieces. So I want that level of macabre in there. Also, in the original story, they murder a bunch of people and animals and stuff. All that stuff will be in there. Another change I'm making: the Munchkins are not going to be little people, because in the book the Munchkins aren't little people. They're, I think, presented as being the height of Dorothy. In the book, they're just going to be people that live in Munchkin Land. I thought about doing like a Peter Jackson's Hobbits kind of thing, but I decided to take that element out altogether. And I think the Munchkins have a particular color. Each land of Oz has a color that represents that land. I think for the Munchkins, it might be blue. So just a really true, bright, like satin blue defines Munchkin Land. Like I want this aesthetic to really, really pop.
And if you want any separation of like them just not being normal folk, you can always do some like very mildly dysmorphic like change to their body where their eyes are a little bigger, or their chin is stretched out a little bit more.
Yeah, to make them fantasy people.
Curve. Yeah, exactly. Like you don't have to do much. So
yeah. So as far as casting goes, for my Dorothy, I have. Oh, I should say that this take, if I didn't say it earlier, is not. Oz is real. There's no fantasy element that or imaginary element that separates Oz from the real world. Oz is real. I did not cast Dorothy's family or anybody from the real world because they're not really important to the story. That's just a vehicle to get us to Oz. So there's not really that much focus presented on the Kansas portion of the story.
Okay.
Dorothy is Bella Ramsey, who was Lyanna Mormont on Game of Thrones. She's the tough little queen who killed the giant in like one of the last episodes.
Yeah,
which was awesome.
yeah.
And she's going to be Ellie in HBO's The Last of Us series.
Oh, nice. I did not know that.
Yeah. The Witch of the North is going to be Gabrielle Union. I love her voice. She is one of my favorite voices in media. If you don't know who she was in Bring It On. She's all that. I recently discovered that people don't know who Gabrielle Union is, and I was surprised for some reason. I didn't know that she was just black famous. I thought she was regular famous, but yeah, she's just black famous. But if you like film, I think it was just movies. If you're a movie fan, you're going to know who Gabrielle Union is. That I think if you're just a casual viewer of film, maybe not. I guess as a white, I don't know. Yeah, but I love her voice, and it has a magical quality to it. I think she'd be a very good Witch of the North just from hearing her. The Witch of the West is Uma Thurman. I know she doesn't act much in the modern time, but she is striking in a way that I think that she would be perfect for that role.
Nice.
The Scarecrow is Keegan-Michael Key because he's theatrical, and I can see him in that role. He'll bring levity in a way that will, because like I said, this is not a comedy per se. It will have comedic elements, but just the energy that Keegan-Michael Key brings will be perfect for that role, I think.
Sure, I agree.
The Tin Woodsman, the Tin Woodsman is Chris Pratt. Everybody knows who Chris Pratt is at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's the all-American corn-fed farm boy. But I think that his positive nature, his natural big heart, makes him a perfect fit to be the Tin Woodsman. Nice. The Lion is in the archetype that you presented, which is big, cuddly black guy, Winston Duke, M'Baku, and the father from Us is my Lion. I think he will crush that role. He's a big dude, but he's so avuncular, so welcoming. And I feel like he would fiercely defend his group from any threat, which in both the movie and the book, the Lion, I'm scared. But yeah, he's a lion and he does not ultimately take shit. Winston Duke as the Lion. That was the craziest
thing was to see interviews after watching, Black Panther was my first time of knowing him like as Winston Duke, like this, it was such a great role. And he's so intense and intimidating in the movie. And then you see the roles, his conversations, interviews, and he's just light and friendly and just very
sweet guy.
Vibrant personality. I'm like, okay, cool. I knew that was a good role. Like he acted well, but he acted really well. If this is his normal persona,
I really like him. I think he's got a bright future because he's a big dude, but he's such a nice guy. There's another actor that'll come up later. They're going to be vying for roles for a long time.
Nice.
The Wizard of Oz. This was really interesting to me. I wanted to go for the huckster salesman vibe, and also somebody who could be from the Midwest. And this gentleman does not act a lot in the modern time, but just once he came to my mind, I could think of no one else as perfect for the role. Robert Downey Jr. is the Wizard of Oz in my movie.
Nice.
And he is really just selling it. He's bebopping and scatting all over the place in the way that Robert Downey Jr. can do.
Nice.
Glenda, the Good Witch of the South. So in the book, actually, the Good Witch of the North that Dorothy meets at the beginning of the movie, or the beginning of the story, and Glenda, the Good Witch of the South, are two different characters. And in the movie, they just made that one character. But the Good Witch of the North is different from the Good Witch of the South. So Glenda, the Good Witch of the South, the one that gets Dorothy home, is Janelle Monáe.
Nice.
like Janelle Monáe, I think she's kind of and like fantastically elfish. She's beautiful. She has a lovely voice, and she's got kind of a magnetic presence.
Mm-hmm.
She screams fantasy being to me. So that is my cast for The Wizard of Oz. I'm not making, like I said, I'm not making any significant changes to the story.
Sure.
The focus is on the opulence. Of course, the through line is what it is in the books, which is no matter what you're going through or your quirks or who you are as an individual, you are special. You can achieve the things that you want to achieve. Yeah, and that is Baz Luhrmann's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Nice. Excellent. I dig it. Baz is one of those directors that if it's the right material, it's going to be well, not timeless, but it's going to end up being like at least a cult classic. So I think, Wizard of Oz is definitely in that wheelhouse of things that could be done by Baz relatively well. Elvis, not so much, but, but I definitely am seeing.
We're still going to see it eventually. It's going to be on the list. It's going to be the kind of movie that is either going to be so ridiculous, such a train wreck that you have to see it, or such a beautiful spectacle that you still have to see it. So,
yep. It's either, it just depends on whether or not you have to have booze or something on with you while watching it or not is the main difference, really. If you need friends there to roast it with you is the question. So for my, we're now into the remix version.
Remix.
Wiki. I'm sorry.
You gotta stop.
I do really need to stop. So for this one, I wanted, actually it was the informing of the black and white to color that made me think of this director in the first place. And so I'm just going to real quick go through it because it's a pretty, of course, casting for this. And it's basically just weird looking white people is what I cast for this one. So this is going to be a very muted, very quiet and almost chilling tale of Wizard of Oz. It's going to be a horror movie for sure, but more of a dramatic horror kind of approach to it. We've got for Dorothy, Candace sucks. It's terrible. It's in black and white. You go to Oz, and it's that muted, single tone, damp color spectrum. So it's not like this bright thing. It's almost like what I would love. Almost there's a single light that is from a certain direction, that all the shots are informed by which way Emerald City is. And then you just have this eerie green glow that is what just sets this slight tone of green to a bleached out color.
Makes everything look a little bit sickly.
A little bit sickly. That Emerald City is almost like what is giving any color to this wasteland. For Dorothy, Anna Taylor-Joy, because she looks like an alien, and that's what we're going for. She's beautiful in a very weird way. And I'm here for it.
She's 75% eyes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's incredible. So she's weird, scary, still hot for somehow. Dorothy. And that's going to be a young adult Dorothy, early 20s as the range that I was thinking that. And then we've got the Wizard, or Professor Marvel, I guess was also his name. And we're going Willem Dafoe as just this crotchety, kind of creepy, but also you might also want him to be your dad. It's just a very weird approach to the character. Then
see him in Nightmare Alley?
Oh, he was fantastic in Nightmare Alley. He was great.
That's the thing that I'm latching on to and thinking about Willem Dafoe in that role.
Yeah, it wouldn't be far off, honestly, because it's huckster. It's a little creepy, a little cagey, but also there is a warmth to him in that role too. So yeah, that's pretty close. Then we've got Scarecrow or Hunk, depending on where you are. I initially thought of another actor, but then watching this kid in Power of the Dog, Cody Smith McPhee as the Scarecrow. He was the young boy in Power of the Dog. He is creepy looking. He's got like a Victorian ghost kind of vibe to him a little bit. That I thought would be interesting.
He's consumptive.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought as the Scarecrow, that would be kind of interesting to have him play this almost like ethereal character version of the Scarecrow. As like, it's not that he's dumb. He's just like, he might be a ghost. Like you're not sure. Then we've got the Cowardly Lion, and I wanted somebody that had like an intensity to him, but also could come off as like, is this dude like intense and cool, or is he like super creepy and shifty and like keep the young girl away from him kind of vibe? And so I went with Michael Fassbender, much with shame being one of the informing choices for having him in this role.
But he's not creepy looking. He's one of the sexiest men alive.
No, he's incredibly. But that's the thing, is that if you've seen Shame, that there's a way that he takes that like intense, handsome, people are fawning over him, but he turns it in a way that it goes creepy. Like it comes off as just like, like not great.
I can definitely see his intensity like sliding over into like just threatening, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So that's more the dichotomy that I want to explore with Cowardly Lion in this version of it is yes, sexy to creepy ratios there. Then we got the Tin Man, and this actor has worked with the director recently, and fantastic director. He's getting kind of a renaissance right now, which good for him. He never fully went away, but it's just, he's in that new, like a good bump in his career right now is Ethan Hawke.
Nice.
I thought as like the like listless, heartbroken, like stare off into the distance, Tin Man character. And then we've got for Glenda, she is basically like a good witch. And I wouldn't be surprised if she just started levitating during an interview or something and just like flew off into the night. She's a little pixie wizard person. Tilda Swinton, I think, would be a good Glenda.
Yeah, Tilda Swinton may actually just be a magical being in real life or an alien.
Like she doesn't come to set; she just appears at set.
Yeah,
she can't be a real person.
And they're like, we didn't actually cast you, and she's like, but I am here nonetheless.
Yeah, right. Like, make room for me, dear. And then I have two ways of going about this. Either for the Wicked Witch, you have Tilda playing the Wicked Witch as well, which I thought would be an interesting thing to see her play like two different characters, but like have them as like twins or something. Would be interesting. But then also, I just wanted like a rageful intensity to this version of the Wicked Witch that I thought would be very fun to come from Gwendolyn Christie, because in real life she's a sweetie pie. She's such a sweetheart, but she can get intense. I mean, she can definitely do intense. So I thought that would be
and she is physically imposing.
Yes, yeah, and so the person helming this ragtag bunch of creepy people is, or at least very interesting looking people, is the one and only Robert Eggers from The Witch, The Lighthouse, and more recently The Northman. That looks incredible.
So I love his movies. I love them.
Absolutely, yep. It's lost in a lot of modern American-made films, especially, is the importance of silence in a scene. Is that so many directors try to fill a scene with so much noise and action that it keeps the audience interested, but you're missing all that buildup. You're missing all that intensity by having moments that have like a pause or a silence, just like a half beat too long to make things feel uncomfortable. And
you let the audience fill that space with their own tension.
Yeah.
Creating their own tension.
You got a bit of that in The Witch, but really that was explored so much more in The Lighthouse, of just this like suffocating feeling of discomfort in some of those scenes. It was incredible. And I thought it'd be interesting in a high fantasy kind of element to explore that kind of approach of these people that don't fucking know each other, that are just on this piss yellow brick road to the Emerald City. And are just like really uncomfortable around each other the whole time, and they don't really trust each other. And there's this like impending sense of doom that builds as you get closer to the city. And I think it'd be really interesting to see what such an auteur like Robert Eggers could do in that space. So
yeah, I would love that.
Yeah,
like it's an A24 style picture. Yeah, would
yep,
love it.
Oh, so much. So what do you got for your remix?
All right, for my remix, I am doing something that is incredibly meta. So my remix exists in a world where Baz Luhrmann's The Wizard of Oz became the biggest movie of all time, bigger than Avatar, bigger than Endgame, and because it was so big and because it had such a large public cachet, this is a movie called The Making of Baz Luhrmann's The Wizard of Oz. And in this meta universe, even though the movie was huge and a giant spectacle and a great success, it was a shit show. The whole production thing was a shit show, making it super interesting. The public wants to see this. This is a mockumentary style picture, kind of that Christopher Guest style, but I wanted somebody modern to direct it. So we're starting with the director here. My director is Greg Daniels, who directed episodes of The Office and Parks and Rec.
Okay.
He wrote on SNL. He wrote on Seinfeld, The Simpsons, King of the Hill. But because he's done some of that mockumentary style on television, and he's done some of the best television in that style ever made, and some of the best television ever made, I wanted to use Greg Daniels as the director for this. So we'll go straight to the cast. The plot is, like I said, it's about this hilarious shit show that was the making of this movie. It actually has the original cast of the movie as cameos in the movie. Like there'll be a conference call or whatever with the original cast, and Baz Luhrmann is actually in the movie.
Nice.
But the cast is, as Baz Luhrmann, Christoph Waltz is Baz Luhrmann in The Making of Baz Luhrmann's The Wizard of Oz. If you don't know who that is, he was in Django Unchained and Inglourious Basterds. I think he might have won an Oscar for both roles.
He definitely
he's awesome.
Earned one for his role in Green Hornet, but
yeah, and he's hilarious. He's got great comic timing. I think he'll work out really well as Bella Ramsey, who was Dorothy in my other take. Aubrey Frances Anderson Emmons. She is Lily Tucker Pritchett on Modern Family, which is the daughter of the gay couple. She's got kind of a disaffected vibe, and but I think that she will work out well in this comedy, and she looks a little bit like Bella Ramsey. That should be fun. The Wicked Witch of the North, who was Gabrielle Union in my other take, is Aisha Tyler. So Aisha Tyler as Gabrielle Union. Aisha Tyler, Lana Kane on Archer. She's been on a show called Criminal Minds for like 7 years, or she was. She was the black person from Friends. I had no idea. She's just around.
Wait, was she on Friends? I don't remember.
Yeah, she dated Ross
on Friends.
She dated Ross for like half a season or a third of a season or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. There was a black person on Friends.
I don't remember
for a very
that.
short period of time. Ross brought all the minorities to Friends. He almost married an Asian woman. The only minorities on Friends were people that Ross brought in his academic space. As Glenda, as Glenda, who was Janelle Monáe in my serious take, Nicole Bahari. Now you probably don't know who she is, but she starred in a movie called Miss Juneteenth in 2020, which was my favorite movie of that year. She was the lead on the Sleepy Hollow TV show. She's cute and vivacious, and she's dating Michael Fassbender, so they both have interesting tastes. I like that. I like that a lot. And because Janelle Monáe is kind of a cute pixie-ish woman, Nicole Bahari is not pixie-ish. She is small, but she has a different energy, but I like it. Like Miss Juneteenth is incredibly impressive. Like my favorite movie 2020, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, as Glenda. Nice. The Wicked Witch, who was
Uma Thurman, yeah.
Uma Thurman, in my serious take, is Elizabeth Debicki, another tall, lanky blonde woman. She is the Aisha, the Queen of the Sovereign in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. She was the woman in Tenet. She's been in a lot of stuff, and she's striking. You can't miss her because she's like 6'5" or something ridiculous.
Jesus.
I think that she's a decent actress, but just physically, she puts me in mind of Uma Thurman.
Uma's gorgeous. Definitely has like an effeminance to her, but is also like a large person. She's not little.
She's a tall and unique woman.
Yeah.
For the Lion, we have Brian Tyree Henry, who is the other guy who would be vying with what's his face for the roles, the same roles, with Winston Duke. Winston Duke and Brian Tyree Henry, I can see a future where they're like vying for the same roles. Brian Tyree Henry was in Atlanta, Enter the Spider-Verse, The Eternals.
Okay. Yeah.
He's been in a lot of stuff. And he's really charming. I like him, but he's got big dad energy in addition to all the other things that he can do as an actor on screen. So he's playing Winston Duke. I keep saying the line, but he's playing Winston Duke. And you have to remember that these people are playing these other people, but these other people are in the movie as cameos. So there's interaction there between these actors playing them and the actual actors. As the Tin Man, we have Jesse Plemons. Jesse Plemons was in Power of the Dog. He's also known as Fat Damon, and he's playing Chris Pratt.
Meth Damon, because he was in Breaking Bad.
Or Meth Damon. But yeah, he's playing Chris Pratt. Jesse Plemons as Chris Pratt.
Great.
As the Scarecrow. As the Scarecrow, and this is where like some ridiculous comedy comes in. Keegan-Michael Key was the Scarecrow in the biggest movie of all time, but there's an actor who really wanted to be the Scarecrow, and he's a big enough actor that he kind of pushed his way into the movie. So as Keegan-Michael Key, we have Jeff Goldblum is Keegan-Michael Key, and this becomes a thing, through line through the movie where this is, so Keegan-Michael Key actually has a bigger role in this movie than the other actors from the original movie, as he's kind of pushing back against the fact that Jeff Goldblum stars as him in this movie. And it's a running through line to the movie. Another thing that gets a little pushback from the actor that starred in the role is the Wizard of Oz, or Robert Downey Jr. As Robert Downey Jr., we have Benedict Cumberbatch. And he's doing this take on Robert Downey Jr. that Robert Downey Jr. does not appreciate. So that becomes not a running through line because they can't get Robert Downey Jr. on long enough, a shooting schedule to be throughout the movie. He's just like a cameo scene. But the fact that Robert Downey Jr. is displeased keeps coming up over and over again over the course of the movie. So, of course, we have things like a phone call with the original cast and Baz Luhrmann. In the cast of this movie, hilarity ensues. The hilarity of the production ensues. At the end, the movie that is made in this pretend movie, or this mockumentary, is not The Wizard of Oz. It's not the pretend movie they're making. Doesn't end up being Baz Luhrmann's The Wizard of Oz. It ends up being called The Smartest Man in the Room, Scarecrow Story, starring Jeff Goldblum. Because he overtakes the production.
Yeah.
And that's my alternate take.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. That's very mockumentary version of the movie. Yeah. Perfect. And yeah, using your same actors from your first pitch is also a brilliant choice. I love that. And that brings us to the last little bit of storytelling that we have for you here on this episode, and that is our trailers for this one. I think for mine, it would be more fun for me to go with the Robert Eggers version of it.
I think I'm going to do the mockumentary, Baz Luhrmann's The Wizard of Oz.
Okay. All right, so let me get some music queued up here.
In a town, trapped in time, a young girl named Dorothy tries to find her way out. But the doors that open before her are not the ones that she expected. This fall, Robert Eggers, director of The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman, takes us on a journey to Oz. The Wizard, played by Willem Dafoe, is the only person that can bring back Dorothy, played by Anna Taylor-Joy, to her land, Kansas. With the help of Scarecrow, played by Cody Smith-McPhee, the Cowardly Lion, played by Michael Fassbender, and the Tin Man, played by Ethan Hawke, Dorothy must find her way to the Emerald City and to her home. And standing in the way is the Wicked Witch of the West, played by Gwendolyn Christie. Will the powers of Glenda protect young Dorothy? Will the Tin Man find a heart? Will the Lion fight against the evils in the darkness? We will find out in Robert Eggers' The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see this Wizard of Oz movie that's definitely going to have a Jism reference in there somewhere.
Oh, I mean, there's going to be where they like walk in on the Cowardly Lion jerking one out real quick before everybody wakes up, you know? He's just like by the smoking fire, like the fire's gone out and it's just smoldering and he's sitting there just tugging at it, looking at Dorothy, and then she wakes up and he's like, oh, nothing. All right, so next up we've got your take here, and this is going to be your Baz Luhrmann jam.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Okay. The Baz Luhrmann jam.
Bigger than Avengers Endgame. Bigger than Avatar, as big as all of Oz. Baz Luhrmann's The Wizard of Oz strides our pop cultural landscape like a colossus, and only now can its thrilling story be told. Join the original cast and Aubrey Francis Anderson-Emmons as Bella Ramsey, Chris Waltz as Baz Luhrmann, Nicole Bahari as Janelle Monáe, Elizabeth Debicki as Uma Thurman, Jesse Plemons as Chris Pratt, Brian Tyree Henry as Winston Duke, Aisha Tyler as Gabrielle Union, Benedict Cumberbatch as Robert Downey Jr., Jeff Goldblum as Keegan-Michael Key. A show about a shit show that can't help but make for a wonderful world of hard feelings. The making of Baz Luhrmann's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Yay.
Yay.
So we got mockumentary and horrifying, jarring horror movie. Cool. So that's
a little palate cleanser.
That's what we put out. Yeah, that's what we put out into the world there for everybody. So, this is definitely a journey into Oz for sure. If you have your own ideas on who should be cast or what kind of tone a Wizard of Oz remake should have, then definitely hit us up. geeksometheinfluence@gmail.com. Just put Smack My Pitch Up or SMPU or Pitch Smacked in the subject line, whatever. Just let us know that it's for the show and join the conversation. Also hit our social media, Facebook, Twitter. Let us know what you think about this episode or other episodes as well. If you have an idea for a future episode, please reach out. Let us know what you want to hear because that helps. That helps us not have to come up with shit as much. So we're already coming up with so much on this show anyway. So
help us help you.
Exactly. And definitely check out GUIPodcast.com to the links for all the shows on the network. Check out my handle is Jonathan Blade from Thandi. And
I'll probably be dropping an episode this week.
Sweet. Excellent. So tons of content for you here. So definitely make sure to rate, review, subscribe, all that cool stuff you do to podcasts. And we'll find you next time for another episode of Smack My Pitch Up. I'm Mike the Hobbit.
And I'm Thandi Woodard.
And you smacked someone with a pitch. I think that's...
Smack my pitch up.
No.
And we're sued. Yeah.
Lawsuit. Cool.
GUIPodcast.com.
Mike the Hobbit here.
Lowdown Brown.
Inviting you to check out Geek Some of the Influence, a podcast that pairs booze with conversation with good friends.
And a little nerd culture.
We get a lot of colorful conversation out of our episodes, but it is here for everyone. No gatekeeping.
Always level up everything we do.
We'll punch up, never punch down.
Exactly.
So check out Geeks Under the Influence everywhere you get your podcasts and join us or die.
Shut the fuck up, Hobbit. Welcome to GUI Nights.
GUI Nights.
Yeah, I am Lowdown Brown. With me as always,
Mike the Hobbit.
this is the tangential side of GUI.
This is like so many of those other shows that has the after the show bit mixed with a little bit of Baywatch Nights, so it's a little sexier. It's a little bit after hours.
Also while tying it into the previous episode of GUI. So look forward to that too, because this comes out the week after the flagship hour-long episode.
So make sure to check out GUI Nights, and when you're done, you can...
Go the fuck home.
My name is Amy Bogard,
And I'm Mike the Hobbit.
and we are the hosts of Deeply Upsetting, where we use our expertise to answer your most upsetting hypothetical quandaries, such as, what non-winged animal deserves wings?
And what body part deserves a secret mouth?
Which cryptid is the worst roommate?
These questions and more that plague you will be answered on Deeply Upsetting, available anywhere you get your podcasts and at GUIPodcast.com.
Hey guys, Scotty P here with Smash on your left. And we are the Geek Fathers. That's right, bringing all the trials and tribulations of being a geeky parent.
So welcome to our world.
And as always, join us.
Or cry.
Coming straight from the mouths of madness, I'm Lowdown.
I'm FU Hunter.
Do you love horror?
We fucking do.
So this is a podcast dedicated to all things in cinematic horror. We're talking movies, television, composers, special effects artists. We're gonna fucking cover it.
So if you love horror,
Embrace the madness.
In a world of blockbuster movies, there's another dimension.
The dimension of schlock cinema. Join us at Beautiful Disasters on a journey into the fringe territory of B-movie abandon.
We review the flicks that are forgotten or underappreciated to give them a proper place in the annals of celluloid history.
I'm the Groots,
FU Hunter.
your guides at Beautiful Disasters. Come along with us for a fun ride. May
May the schlock be with you.